Thank you. What we're here to talk about tonight is the city facilities bond discussion. As on November 20th, you recall, we were before you, staff was before you, talking about where we were at as far as the council's direction to proceed with a general obligation bond to address some of the city's major challenge areas, specifically the police station, which was determined to be substandard and its configuration not safe, so on and so forth, as well as some of the other cities' other space needs. Because we have some new council members who weren't here on November 20th, we'll talk a little bit about a little bit of the history so that we can see where we've gone from here. So in 2015, we engaged in a facilities master plan, looking at what the city's needs were going to be over the next 20 years. At that time, the plan addressed four of the most critical facilities needs at the time. Number one was the construction of a new police station, estimated to be about $4.8 million. Phase two, expansion of the city shop and associated workspace, office spaces, an estimate around $10.7 million on the high side. Construct new city office building to replace the Mann building, which we know is undersized, but we felt was at the end of its serviceable life because of some of the exterior cracking in the building. And phase four, remodel the city hall basement, estimated $710,000 at that time. So again, through the facility study, the main issue that was pointed out was the police services facility or police station, and those are the three biggest issues: inadequate space, inefficient configuration, and limited access for emergency response. As you know, it is located on a one-way street and a cul-de-sac street. The only way to leave the police station in a southern, if you had to respond south, would be to go down the alley between Main Street and Washington Street, or across Washington Street till you hit Jefferson, and then move over southward onto 6th Street. The overcrowding and inadequate space in two other buildings or two other facilities were also pointed out. One was community development, which, as you can see, was 50% or 54% deficient within a matter of 5 years. Engineering, 66% deficient in a matter of 5 years. And then information systems, which was going to be deficient on just under 1,000 square feet, would be 50% deficient within another 5 years. So those were other office needs that currently were either being housed in the Mann building or eventually had to be taken, in the case of information systems, out of City Hall and moved to the Eagan Youth Center because we did not have any downtown office space for that facility. So the facilities master plan was something that we looked at in developing the city's strategic plan in 2016. Council looked at a lot of different challenges facing the community, and those major challenge areas, one of the biggest ones, the tier one for internal major challenge areas, was in fact the police station, and you can see those same qualifications were put in the city's strategic plan as well. Council made that again a tier one internal challenge area. In that same thing, and I'm not going to ask you to read this, but the recycling center was also the subject of the strategic planning effort, and suffice it to say that the recycling center operations, as they were determined in 1993, when the current recycling center was constructed, you've seen a huge increase in tonnages received at the recycling center, as you can see, from 1993 to 1995, and to 2013, there was an increase of about 1,200 tons, about 50% during that period of time. So if you go to the italicized center, with growing recycling material tonnages, community participation, and the implementation of single-stream curbside recycling, overall recycling tonnage will far outstrip the recycling center's ability to meet the city's future requirements without an entirely new design, location, or recycling approach. So There were several strategies that were put forward to the council to consider. One was to increase the capacity and capability of the recycling program and the facilities. And second was to address some of the safety concerns at the recycling center, namely the interface between some of the equipment that was used to empty the bins at the recycling center, and hopefully to make it more usable. Some of the strategies were to look at expansion on the recycling center proposal from 2003, which is when the city purchased additional property to the south of the recycling center, some of which was used for the C Street right-of-way, to expand the footprint and make the recycling center more usable, in other words, spread the operation out, or to procure a new recycling center site and a new facility design that better meets the city's needs into the future beginning in June 2015. As an adjunct to that, the city was in the process of implementing a single-stream recycling program to replace the old curbside recycling program, and that also impacted the operations of the current center. So, as a bit of the background, in 2015, the City Council directed us to explore a $10 million general obligation bond issue to address those 5 or 6 issues bulleted. The first was a new police facility. At that time was estimated to be about $5.5 million. Replace fire equipment, estimated to be about $2 million at the time. Some park development, about $1 million. That was not to develop all of the undeveloped parks in town, but to address some of the issues. Downtown infrastructure, as you know, the Main Street downtown, what used to be called the downtown LID. The crosswalks are in poor shape, the aggregate crosswalks. So the council said or asked us to look into addressing that issue. That was estimated $500,000 to do just a bare minimum intersection replacement. Street repair and maintenance was huge at the time. Council wanted to address that as well, so there was $1 million that was allocated, or at least proposed to be put towards street repair and maintenance. And the city shop was also determined that council wanted us to address that. We'll look at those separately very quickly. Okay, first of all of these different technical advisory committees were formed to address each of these issues. So we had what we referred to as subject matter experts. The police met with designers to look at the police issues. Fire department personnel looked at the fire issues, the apparatus, parks, streets, and on down the line. Then there were a few, the Finance Technical Advisory Committee and Public Relations Communication, to address how technically we could pursue this. So going back, I'm going to backtrack one slide. The police services facility is one that is still viable and will be addressed tonight. Fire equipment replacement, as you will recall, council directed that we address those issues in the budget, so we reallocated funding, brought a proposal to city council 2 years ago to fund fire apparatus in the budget by accumulating monies in a very aggressive accumulation. We've done that. There is one fire truck on order. It should be here in April or early May. We have just reported the other day that we are a finalist for a community development block grant in the amount of $300,000 to purchase another fire engine within the next 12 months as well. The going rate for fire engines is somewhere around $540,000, so that would be a big boost to us as well. But should we receive the CDBG grant or not, we will proceed on schedule to purchase that apparatus every 2 years until the current apparatus is replaced, except for the ladder truck, which will be replaced in 2026, or at least is scheduled at that time. Park development, council passed a resolution that Dwight referred to earlier tonight, looking at the remaining balance of the Hamilton Trust Fund and allocate that. Council determined that those funds, about $1.9 million is remaining in the fund, will be utilized for the purchase of playground equipment and accessible pathways for incremental development of the city parks. In addition, the Parks Department has put together a pretty innovative plan to do the landscaping in the parks, the rough landscaping themselves, and as Dwight indicated, they've trained personnel in order to install playgrounds to make it even more economical. Downtown infrastructure, as I indicated, $500,000 would not have replaced all the downtown infrastructure. We are currently working with the Moscow Urban Renewal Agency. The Urban Renewal Agency commissioners are considering extending Legacy Crossing Urban Renewal District, which now ends at the alley to the west of Main Street, taking in the Jackson Street parking lot and going west from there. Consideration is being considered at this point to extend Legacy Crossing to the west, or excuse me, the east right-of-way sidewalk of Main Street, which would allow the URA to also become a partner with the city in redeveloping that infrastructure.